China wants to be one of the world's innovation powerhouses by 2020. But can it transition from being the world's factory to being its innovation engine? Hello, I'm Anand Naidu, and this is The Heat. China has catapulted to one of the world's top economies using its manufacturing prowess. But with manufacturing on the decline and a slowing economy, the country looks to new areas to boost growth. At the top of the list, innovation. China sees innovation in areas of technology, science, agriculture and energy as the way forward for the country's economic future. Here to explain China's ambitious growth plan, we're joined now by CCTV's Wang Hui. Joins us from Beijing. And Hui, China has implemented its 5-year plan on innovation and knowledge growth in recent days. What are the highlights of that plan?
Well, the State Council has published a national plan for progress in science and technology. It lists a set of targets as well as government actions. The plan aims to substantially improve China's technology and innovation abilities. The plan also targets to lift the country's comprehensive innovation capabilities into the world's top 15 by 2020 from last year's 18th place. It also aims to have knowledge-intensive services account for 20% of GDP by 2020, up from less than 16% last year. In the plan, the country pledged greater input for research areas with high economic potential, such as computer chips, digital machinery, and nuclear power. The plan also highlights several cutting-edge areas for national strength and security interests, such as space science, deep-sea exploration, and artificial intelligence. The plan covers some research areas that had previously been sidelined, such as urban planning technology, eco-friendly infrastructure, and natural disaster early warnings. The State Council says to ensure effectively implementation of the plan, it will make efforts to strengthen legal protection on innovation, improve inclusive and supporting policy system, and implement intellectual property rights strategies.
Now, China's economy has been in a slowdown recently, and the government and private industry see innovation as the new frontier. How will innovation spur China's economy?
Well, China is in the midst of a large-scale economic restructuring to shift its growth pattern. But the traditional incentives that have driven the country's economic miracle, such as cheap manpower and intensive government spending, are lapsing. The plan puts high expectations for science and technology to create new businesses, upgrade industries, and provide more jobs. One effort the document emphasizes is to remove barriers between the academe and the market. China was late to introduce market forces to research areas, as the country had been a planned economy for decades. Even today, many of the universities and institutes are public funded and are cautious about walking too close with business. With this new plan, the country is set to create direct and close link between scientists and enterprises, so research projects can gain diverse funding outside government budgets, and the new technology can find customers more easily. Another point I would like to mention is that the Chinese government does not only use science and technology to develop economy, but also uses to deal with the fast pace of change in Chinese society and the problems that accompany it. The Chinese government used to focus on the speed and efficiency of economic growth. But as I mentioned earlier, now much of the plan addresses research areas to improve people's living conditions. This has revealed an interesting shift in the government.
Thanks, Hui. That's CCTV's Wang Hui reporting from Beijing. For more on China's push for innovation, He Wanqing joins us from Beijing. He is Vice Chairman for China Computer Federation Young Computer Scientists and Engineer Forum. Via Skype from Austria, Wu Jun is a venture capitalist with Amino Capital and author of Artificial Intelligence Era. From California, Carmen Chang is a partner and managing director of the Asia program with New Enterprise Associates. And with me in the studio, Joanna Lewis is a professor of science, technology, and international affairs at Georgetown University, right here in Washington, D.C. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Let's go to Beijing. He Wanqing, China is a country that's experienced several decades of very robust economic growth. But right now, it's experiencing an economic slowdown. It's a time right now to change tactics, introduce new strategies. And the path that China is embarking on is to become the world's innovation engine. How difficult is it going to be for the country to make this transition from being the world's factory to becoming the world's innovation engine?
Okay, you can see this is a natural development. In the past 30 years of when China has opened its door to the world, also the start of the reform, we got a very high speed of the economic development. Right now we are the second largest economy in the world. In the past years, decades, China is named as a world's factory. But right now, so it is just the time that if we come back to see that the last 5 years, we call the 12 5-year plan, China has got many breakthroughs in the science and technology development. We can see the manned space plan and also the lunar probe, also the high-speed railway, also the supercomputers. And it is just the time that for a big country like China that to speed up and accelerate its innovation to make the right turn. That's the innovation of the science and technology is the most important engine for the next phase of this country to go into the, we call the value chain, the high end of the value chain. So it is just like what we have done in the last decades. That most important is the first time that China government put the science tech innovation. It's important that innovation is the first time they put into the national plan. So it is difficult, but it is just in time that China is going to this right turn, and it's a choice for this big economy.
Wu Jun,
okay, that's my thought.
Right. Wu Jun, this is an ambitious plan. How do you see it unfold in the years ahead? We just heard from our reporter about the 5-year plan on innovation and knowledge growth. How do you think these initiatives will boost China's innovative growth?
I would say it will give actually the industry some to convert the old style economy to the new one. I mean, in the next 5 years, I would say this plan will focus on translation instead of just innovation. How to use the new technology to convert it to new services and new products, not just for innovation, scientific research, and but to change the structure of economy. So that I think that's the focus in the next 5 years. It's my understanding of this plan.
Carmen, China's tech sector has been criticized in the past. It's been criticized for taking ideas from Silicon Valley here in the United States and using them in China. But have we got to the point now where China's got past that? It can innovate on its own.
Well, I think China's been innovating for quite a while. I think in large part because, with the advent of the internet, you have a situation in which China, because it really didn't have a lot of the legacy industries, a lot of the so-called bricks and mortars, China was able to, was able to really leap ahead in many ways in terms of innovation in the internet sector. And then in particular, because China really didn't have the vast copper-based infrastructure, so that China had to, in a sense, leapfrog more into the mobile era more quickly than in the West. So based upon the fact that China's didn't really have a lot of legacy from the past, it was able to develop a much more quickly into a mobile economy and into innovating in different industries. So for example, China's messaging system through the internet, China's e-commerce is in many ways much more advanced, both in terms of technical capability as well as innovative business plans. So I would say that you see an acceleration today of innovation in China. because these internet companies, these great internet companies in China, are beginning to throw off or beginning to enable China to have a group of young entrepreneurs that, similar to the U.S., I mean, a lot of U.S. innovation and startups are from people that left Google or Apple and started their own companies. And you have that today in China. For the first time, I would say in the last 4 to 5 years, you see for the first time what we call serial entrepreneurs. You know, a new generation of entrepreneurs in China starting companies who have started their startup, who had built startups, who then also went into Alibaba or Tencent or Baidu. You know, their companies were purchased by those companies. Then they will work in these large corporations for sometimes 7 years, 8 years, and then they will come out and build new startups. And that ecosystem is building up in China today, and I can see it pretty clearly. And as a U.S. investor looking at China, we're very excited about that.
Joanna, the United States has been a major worldwide innovator. Are there any lessons for China here from the U.S. experience?
Well, I think there's a few things that the United States does well that China may try to emulate. I mean, first of all, the United States is good at supporting technologies at all stages of development, so has a very strong support for basic research, which, you know, often you can't tell there's going to be commercial value at that stage, but is very important for supporting the scientific enterprise. I think also the United States government has been pretty good at moving technologies through what we call the valley of death. So when you sort of have interesting innovations in the laboratory, how do you get those out into the field and commercialize them? So in the energy sector, for example, there's many innovative programs at the Department of Energy where you support high-risk technologies that could have high payoff. I think the other thing the United States does well is support these ecosystems of innovation. So we have these Silicon Valleys and Route 128 where you have universities working side by side with startups and private sector entrepreneurs, and that creates, I think, a very rich environment for innovating and inventing new technologies.
He Wanqing, China wants to be the innovation powerhouse by 2020, as we've been reporting. How is the Chinese government supporting that aim?
Yeah, so for this is a very long plan right now that we set it up. Actually, China government has set up investigation that's invited 8,000 scientists to do the evaluation and do the plan. And so I think there's several angles. First, that government is the first time that's noticed that the science and technology is quite different. For the scientific research, so government will put more to encourage the original innovations and also give the free and also the more fund and the way how to support and set up the management mechanism that's encourage the scientists to the original research and innovation, but not only on to the just like a paper publication, and also will in the other hand, government will encourage that and set up the mechanism that push the enterprise as the major power and the powerhouse to to implement the innovations to match the stressing needs from the strategic, like national security, like the people's livelihood, and this is the one part. And the second thing is that the government will, in China we have a tradition and history that's to concentrate the whole country's effort and investment to put into the mega project we call the mega program. So for this 2020 that's 2020 plan, that the government has also set up the 15 mega programs or called project, and we will use this like project driven. This is like one criteria for the every stage of the innovation value chain. So this is something new that's compared with before. So this is something I noticed that's what happens right now in this plan for me. Yes.
Okay, we are going to take a break right now. Coming up, more on China's ambitious economic growth through innovation. Stay with us. You're watching The Heat. Welcome back. We're talking about China's plan to move from a manufacturing-based economy to an innovation-fueled growth model. The country is aiming to become an innovation powerhouse by 2020. Let's get back to our discussion. Let's go to Wu Jun in Austria. And Wu Jun, what are the major innovation sectors, if I can call it that China can tap into and that are currently underrepresented in the economy? Where are the major opportunities?
I think there are a couple of areas China will lead innovation and convert into production in the future. Number one will be telecommunication. This is a big concept, not just mean cell phone, like broadcast media. It's related to any way to connect people to people. For example, how do you like to deliver some information or some product, virtual product, services from one person to the other for those two people without understanding each other, without knowing each other before. And China has lots of innovation on this area. And today, not just instant messenger, not just cell phones, but many ways to use the telecommunication in industry, and they use it very smartly. So this is one area I would say in general telecommunication. Another one is transportation. China is a big country, has a very big population density, and the transportation is really a problem in the past. And I think that's why and high-speed railway system were paved in the country, much faster than in any other area in the world. But that's not enough, because still we will see, for example, in big cities, the traffic is really bad today. How can they use some smarter way to improve the communication, transportation? For example, use drive car, for example, smart car, and to use artificial intelligence technology to manage the transportation in a big city. And this is actually a change, but also I would say opportunity for China, and also for manufacture, because China today is still a big manufacturer country, and nobody can expect the growth of manufacture can get down, for example, in 20 years even. And how can they convert manufacture mass production to some manufacturer which target to very small niche market, specific people, but still can control the cost at lower cost instead of produce very high pricing merchandise.
Right.
So this is also a challenge. But China is really a manufacturer country, and a huge population of laborers live on this industry. So I would say at least these three areas.
Okay, Carmen, of course, these are very ambitious plans, but what are the challenges that Chinese innovators will face?
I would say that what I see from my years of working in China that I think would help China develop an innovation economy are in the following areas. I think first is that from a cultural perspective, I think that Chinese entrepreneurs often are afraid of failure. And I think that so sometimes their plans they become less ambitious about their plans just because of fear of failure. So I think that's an important thing to do, to develop more of a culture where if you fail, it could almost be a badge of pride. The second thing I think is that I think that China, I have found in making a lot of deals with funds from China, including government funds as well as funds, just China-based funds, is that they tend to be a lot less generous towards the entrepreneurs. So we find oftentimes that we're arguing to give to the entrepreneurs much bigger share of the company. And I would say thirdly that that often you don't find the same ecosystem that we have in the U.S. in terms of the role of bankers, lawyers, and accountants. You need very robust professional groups like lawyers, accountants, and bankers to give support to the entrepreneurs and to the companies, so that as they mature, they develop in a way that would enable them to become huge companies. So I think that that there's still a lot of things that could be done in that area.
Joanna, when we talk about technology and innovation, one tends to think about information technology, but China also wants to take the lead in things like clean energy and protecting the environment and introduce new technologies. In those respects, what does it need to do to get ahead there?
Well, one of the things you're seeing in the 13th Five-Year Plan period is a government effort to really rethink the science and technology support structure within China, and to, in an effort to sort of refocus resources on the priority technology areas. So energy and environmental technologies is really one of these areas where, of course, they don't just have important applications in China today, but will have increasingly important applications globally. So as China moves from a manufacturing to an innovation economy, I think clean energy is an example of one such sector where they need to do this as quickly as possible. I mean, if you look at the wind turbine technology or solar panels, for example, China's already the largest manufacturer of these technologies. They are investing the most of any country in deploying these technologies, both domestically and increasingly around the world. But the only place they lag behind really is in the innovation side, measured in patents, measured in a variety of other ways. And I think this is really just because these are technologies that were initially invented elsewhere. And China has had to really leapfrog and play catch up over the last decade. And they've done this quite successfully, I think, through partnerships with foreign firms, through a variety of technology transfer models. But this is really still an area where I think they can increase the amount of innovation happening in these sectors. And so this will be partly, I think, reshaping these government signals, and also really, as some of the other panelists mentioned, encouraging and unleashing this entrepreneurship among these companies. And I think you see some very entrepreneurial companies in these sectors already in China. And so I think these are going to provide really important models going forward.
He Wanqing, where is China going in terms of electronic information technology? We just saw a Chinese company unveil a supercomputer at the conference in Germany last June. So that's already a major development, but where is that particular sector of the industry heading?
Okay, so before answer this question, I would like to add something upon the previous questions on what the new things and the gap behind the developer country. There's one interesting thing we mentioned in this plan, that government is driving for, the science and scientific education, like popularization. You know that there's in U.S. have had already a very long history of the science popularization. Like there's a magazine called Scientific American. It has a Chinese version here, and we saw a lot more and more enterprise and some startups to go into these areas. Actually, the governments right now in this plan, the first time we are driving for to encourage people to do that. I think this is also a very important thing for a large country like China to make all the people to get the scientific spirit. So that because we are living in a very big internet economy, that's there's every day you see there's a bunch of there's a lot of the news about we call the the black science and technologies, and the people is talking about that. But this is important for the scientific education. So for the the electronic and in this section, so not only the supercomputer, I'm working on these areas for and see these 10 years, the rapid growth in supercomputer technologies. It is like a pyramid, and the technologies and developed here can be passed down to the different areas. This is the engine. Supercomputer HPC is the engine for the other scientific research. It's used simulation, numerical simulation in weather forecast and seismic processing and life science. All the basic science can be benefit from this area. So this is the one reason why this area China has put a lot of effort and inside and get a very great achievement. And besides this, we noticed that we still have some plan in the general the processors. How to this semiconductor industry. So this is all the important, we call self-controlled strategic industry. The China is putting the more and more effort and the investment to get the innovation in it. So I think this is something like a synergy area that all the electronic sectors and the technologies will be happen here. It's like a booming up. So that's including the we call in that plan. You can see that we call content communication and content computers, and also that some we call the basic software and like operation system and the general processors, all this stuff. So that's what I see here from this plan.
Right, and
it's a synergy of the sector.
Yeah, and Carmen, all of this is of course going to require money. What kind of opportunities do Western investors see in Chinese innovation?
I think we're seeing it across sectors. For example, I think in augmented reality and virtual reality, I think that because China has such a vast gaming industry, China's developing, I think, some new business plans as well as new technology in the AR and VR area. And I also see China moving into data analytics in a big way. And I'm beginning to see Chinese companies doing pretty cutting-edge work in machine learning and big data. So I think that we're looking very carefully at those areas.
Okay, and that's where we have to leave it. Thanks to all of you for joining us. That's all we have time for. I'm Anand Naidu in Washington, D.C. Thanks for being with us.